It's time. Hello and welcome to the EX novel video. I'm not mad or anything. We're just, we're gonna review the EX novels today. I wasn't excited for anything else that I had to review in terms of this series. There wasn't anything else that was related at all, especially with my choice of clothing. Nope, it was just the EX novels. We're excited for the EX novels. Oh boy, there's nothing else that I want to see in the series currently. There's nothing else that we have to do that's part of some major arc and all that. No, it's just the EX novels. Whoopee. So anyways, let's talk about them. Alright, so the EX novels. What can I really say about them? I mean, I guess the biggest thing I can mention is that all of these, take place before Subaru shows up and all that and everything. And they're all really interesting because there's no, technically speaking, chronological order with them. A lot of them kind of just go, right? The stories are like things of the past that, are important, of course, to the main series. But none of them are necessarily in chronological order. I mean, I guess 2 and 3 are actually, back to back essentially. But other than that, there's not much that is just, constant back to back. At least I think so, because we're not doing EX5 today since that's not fully translated and everything. So, not exactly like I can handle that one, right? Because I don't know where to look for it, right? I did actually try and see if there was any, obvious fan translation type of things online. Nearly impossible to find any. I even asked a good pal of mine about it, and no results. So, you know what? I had to do it physically. Luckily, I had all the mistranslations down essentially, right? I had that whole document just on the ready on my phone, so that was nice. Albeit there wasn't that much insane stuff from what I could tell. I mean, there was some slight foreshadowing stuff, but I mean, that means nothing to me. I never saw the foreshadowing beforehand, so the foreshadowing then doesn't mean much. But there were some mistranslations. I did notice a good amount of them, but I mean, it's whatever. It's mistranslations. As much as that is bad, I will say it's not the worst thing, right? I do think that the yen press is alright, right? I can appreciate how fast they get this stuff out. But anyways, EX novels, we got about 4 to talk about. Hopefully this video is not too long, because honestly, I mean, the what if video was an hour long, right? If we're being real for a moment, the what if video was an hour long, and I did not plan for that. This might also be, I have a lot to talk about, but I mean, I hope it's shorter. That's what I'm going to say from now on, right? I'm going to say I hope it's shorter than, whatever I'm trying to make it shorter than, because no guarantee, especially after that Arc 6 video. That Arc 6 video, me saying I hope it's shorter than the Arc 5 one, really didn't turn out well. And of course I should mention this just before we get right into things. We will keep this overall spoiler free. Much like the what if video, I want to be able to essentially review and recap all this and still leave it in such a way that, hey, if you're an anime watcher or something and you want to know more about this, right? Or you're reading through arcs 1 to 4, greatly appreciate that, because honestly, White Fox, if we're being real, White Fox did not do the anime justice at all. But, if you're reading through it and everything and you don't want spoilers and all that, right? And you're not further ahead and all that, just simple as it is, we're keeping it spoiler free. I'm not going to mention anything about later arcs. I might allude to later stuff, right? Very short in a way, right? Nothing too big, but overall I'm going to keep this spoiler free because I really don't want to ruin this for anybody, right? So yeah, that's about all I want to mention for that. Let's get right into it, because honestly, no point in wasting time, otherwise we really are going to guaranteed make it to an hour, so let's get right to it. So first off, we have the EX Volume 1. Now this story takes place during the time of, like, you know, Felix serving Krush and everything, and we also get to see the current prince, like of the Lagunica family, all that, right? Like the royal bloodline. So this is really interesting, and I was very much looking forward to this one, because I'm like, oh shit, we actually get to see a member of the, like, big bloodline, right? The big bloodline that pretty much exists nobody the left in terms of the actual, like, main story currently, right? Other than, like, Felt, I guess, right? Felt's obviously part of it. But other than that, really nobody else. But this is interesting, right? Because now we get to learn more about, like, that family. And it's like, oh shit, here we go, right? So to go into the events, obviously, right? We start off with a nice little flashback that pretty much tells us that Krush and this prince of the bloodline, Fourier, I'm assuming is how you pronounce his name, we learn that these two have known each other for a while, like a long ass while, because obviously they're kids, right? And of course Krush, like, serves him, because pretty much everybody does, right? Obviously. We learn that, you know, while Krush does serve him and everything, they become longtime friends, and eventually, once Krush essentially gets, you know, Felix with her and everything, right? Now all three of them are this, like, big, just group together, right? It's this nice little friend group that's in there. I will say a lot of the early stuff with EX1, there's not an insane amount. It's very comedic, I almost want to say, right? For example, there's, like, an arranged marriage with somebody in Gusteco, and Fourier is trying to get out of it, and he uses Felix to get out of it, and Felix reveals he's a man during it and all this, and it creates a really awkward scenario for them, right? And it's like, it's a funny little thing, right? And there's all sorts of shit like this and everything, or like Fourier trying to get Krush to wear a dress, which actually I was kind of shocked, because this is a big thing in the story, right? Is Krush not wearing a dress, Felix wearing one, and I honestly thought that that was going to be delved into within this, right? I already know the story of that, right? I've have enough info about that, like, side story type of stuff, that I do understand what's going on there, right? So it wasn't that big of a deal for me, but I was kind of shocked though, because I assumed, oh, they would delve into it with this, and while they do bring it up and they do mention the details of it, they don't really, like, go into it as much as I thought, right? I thought they were gonna fully just show it, and they don't. They just bring up the details about it, and that's about it, which is fine, right? It's just a little bit shocking. Like, I've heard about that stuff, and I've seen some info on it and everything, right? Everything, like, that would give me the gist of it. But I was shocked to see, like, oh, it's not in there. Huh. But, you know, they do bring it up, and it's whatever. And then Fourier manages to, I mean, after constantly losing over the years against Krush in a sword battle, he eventually gets to, like, just win against her, and now she has to wear a dress for her birthday. This makes a big thing, but then she also has to go out and fight the rabbits who are nearby, right, attacking a village and everything, so she fights them in her proper, you know, military type of clothing, and then comes back, gets dressed, all this, they dance. Fourier also dances with Felix, right? Very feel-good stuff, until I think after this point is when we get to the more serious moments and everything, right? Because now we get into the stuff related to Felix's family, and this is what really got interesting for me, right? Like, everything previously I did like, and I thought it was interesting, and there was a lot there. Like, there was still stuff there plot-wise that did make it pretty damn enjoyable, right? But this is something I've been dying to know more about, because I knew some details about Felix's family and everything a little bit, right? And this, oh, this was what I was waiting for. So we start this little plot point off with essentially some shady shit is going down around, Felix's family, right? There's some stuff going on. It seems like there's human trafficking and all that and everything. And essentially Krush goes to investigate it. And the big thing, right, that they kind of just established for this is Felix's family never really cared for him. They locked him in the basement, and that's it, right? And like after a few years, eventually Krush saved him, all that, right? And then we get to the point where we're at now, where Felix is serving Krush and all that, right? It's like a fucked up backstory essentially, right? And it does add more to him. And now Krush is going over there because she's trying to investigate all the shady shit going on. And they set up this trap for her where they essentially filled like the air or whatever, maybe. I don't remember if it was the air or if it was like something else. I think it was the air. Just with essentially like some shit that could just knock you out, right? With the antidote to that being in the tea, right? And the very clear thing would be, the tea would be spiked, not like, something like the air around them or something, right? Like, not like a gas, essentially, right? It'd be the tea. No, actually, the tea is what has the antidote, because that, like, it'd be obvious that that would be the spiked thing. So, that was actually the solution, and as a result, Krush gets fucked over. She ends up knocked out, and now she's locked in the basement because they're trying to get Felix to come to essentially resurrect Felix's like a dead mother, right? That's what his father wants. And they also have another dude there. I don't remember his name, but he had the capability of like resurrecting the dead, or at least like to a certain capacity, right? He had that whole spell and everything, right? So then, Felix, Julius, and also Fourier make their way there. And I should actually mention this first. Fourier, throughout the story, is getting more and more, like, he's getting more noticeably, like, coughing, right? Like, he's coughing a lot more. It's just all sorts of shit, right? Very clearly, like, there's something wrong here. And, of course, this is the point where it's, like, getting pretty damn bad. And they go there, right? Felix heads in because he's just willing to make this sacrifice if it means getting Krush back, right? And then Felix goes up to the room, resurrects his dead mother, and his dead mother essentially kills his father. So there goes that. But then it's revealed in a big twist that, first of all, Krush is completely, like, the cuffs on her hands are broken, right? And she now attacks all these, like, undead trying to attack her and everything, and the guy who's also there, right? Hits all of them, gets it done just like that because of her, like, I think it's like one hit, 1,000 felled or something like that, right? I don't fully remember the name of it, but it's something along the lines of that, right? She does that, boom, they're gone, and it's revealed at this point two things, which were like, is pretty huge, right? First of all, the maid actually was the one who freed Krush. She came down, she just uncuffed her and everything, and then walked like away. And then second, she talks to Felix a little bit here and there, then goes into the room and like shuts the door and essentially dies in, or lights a fire first, right? I should mention that. Lights a fire first in the room to essentially burn down the whole building and just get rid of everything. And then, essentially kills herself in the same room as the father and the mother. And it's pretty much revealed here. It's not outright, right? It's not outright said. But it is very clearly implied with the chats with Krush, with the chats with, like, Felix and all that, that this maid is the actual mother to Felix, not the person who we thought was the mother. It's this one. It's the maid. Which is really interesting, and the funny part is I spoiled myself on this before, and somehow I totally forgot about it, and I read this, and And I immediately went, oh shit, I forgot about that. Right, I read about that on the wiki. Because I just happened to be like snooping around to see details about, you know, the big characters. And I saw that. And I totally forgot. But you know what, I'm glad I did, because this took me by surprise. And I was like, oh shit. Oh man, that's actually kind of a great twist, right? Like, even though it's almost something that it could be a little bit expected, right? It's pretty great, I can't lie. But then, Fourier gets really fucking sick at this moment, and the last, essentially, little bit of the EX novel is just, you know, slowly but surely, not only are members of the royal bloodline dying, but he's getting worse and worse and worse, to the point that, first of all, he's talking to Felix and he just wants Felix to smile and everything. And then second, he's talking to Krush, mentions how he wanted to like get married to Krush and everything, right? And all that. And he dies shortly after. And I can't even lie, like you barely know this character. He's there for like a volume, right? He's there for the whole EX volume. And like, that's a singular one, right? But man, I can't even lie, that was sad as shit. He was a character who I was really enjoying. And I mean, I knew by the start that like, okay, he's gonna die by the end, right? It's a very clear thing that he's gonna die by the end. But I can't even lie, and this happens with a lot of stuff, like it's not even just, you know, this, right? This happens with like a lot of series that I notice, where a character will be introduced in a flashback or whatever it may be, right? And they'll be fucking great, but the font constantly looming in the back of your head that you just constantly like forget about, right? It's a subconscious kind of font that's there, is they're going to die by the end, right? Like, it's that font that's just at the back of your head that you're not fully thinking about, but you just fully remember it when you're getting close to that point, is, hey, you're seeing a backstory and you know the result of it. They're gonna die, and it's gonna suck because you're really enjoying this character. And that's how I felt with this. It was like, damn, I was actually really enjoying Fourier, and it's like, seeing him die, especially with how the scene is handled and everything, it's really sad. And it sucks too, because like shortly after, it's pretty much revealed that a lot of people who are in this like, you know, big council and everything trying to decide what to do, they don't give a shit about Fourier, right? What they see is they don't have a ruler anymore. They don't care about the people that were, like, you know, the rulers and everything, right? Part of the royal bloodline. They just see they don't have any rulers anymore, right? And, like, all that shit. And this obviously pisses, like, Krush off, who's in the room with them, just listening to this shit. But then also we get to the point where it's like, oh, the dragon has decided that, oh, in order to find out what we will do in terms of, like, you know, who's going to rule this kingdom, we'll have this little jewel, and if it goes in your hand and it shines, that'll decide everything. And obvious thing here, but it doesn't shine for any of the like people in the room other than Krush. It shines for Krush, right? This is the thing we know by now. But yeah, that happens, and essentially from there, Krush and Felix, you know, just head their way. I think just back to the mansion that they're at, right? I don't think it was anywhere else. I think it was just back to their mansion, right? And that's about it. That's where the story wraps up. And honestly, I think this one might be my favorite EX novel. There's so much, like, there's a lot of comedic stuff in there. There's a lot of very, like, tense and good story moments in there. How it ends is pretty sad, right? Like, it ends on a sad note and everything, but it's good, right, with the way it's written. I really actually like this one a whole lot. This one was very enjoyable, and I super, like, just enjoyed reading through it constantly, like, for the few days that I was going through it. Yeah, honestly, I really like this. Fourier was great. This really did help improve Felix and Krush for me a whole lot, right? Because a big thing with these EX novels is they can obviously improve the characters, because this is a very big thing, part of the main story, right? Who knows if it will get adapted, right? That's the unfortunate thing, is who knows if it will get adapted. It could be adapted in the manga, since I know Frozen Bonds is actually soon getting an adaptation. So, I mean, maybe we'll get adaptations of these, who knows? But yeah, this was definitely like really good in improving Felix and Krush for me, because they were definitely pretty good, but this made them even better and showed more about them that I really enjoyed and all that. Especially Felix, this really put Felix higher for me. I'm really glad I did actually get to go through this and everything. Yeah, overall, pretty great. But let's move on to EX2, where we get to see two characters who, you know, I thoroughly enjoy. Alright, so EX Volume 2. Now this is something I was very much looking forward to, because I really like Wilhelm, and I mean, if you've been on the channel and you've seen the later reviews that don't have adaptations yet, you would know that I like Teresia a whole lot, right? I like both of these characters a whole lot, right? But this is something I was definitely looking forward to, because this is the big story of what the fuck happened, like, you know, in the past with them and everything. And yeah, I really did get what I wanted out of this. We essentially get to see, you know, Wilhelm since he was super fucking young, right? About maybe like 12, 13, something like that, right? Just going out in the demi-human war, killing demi-humans like it's nothing. And we get to see the opposite to him in terms of a character, a boy called Grimm, who's the same age. And Grimm is very much focused on living, whereas Wilhelm is just focused on like getting his you know, objective done, just getting rid of all these demi-humans. And eventually their like current squad gets wiped out by some traps that were laid by the demi-humans, so they end up in a new squad of people who, I mean, okay, one's named Pivot, and then the other one, I think is Zergev, was his name. I know there's a second part to his name, but the problem is that second part has an X in there. And the problem with X's in names is the author can feel like they can just pronounce that shit however they want, right? They can make you pronounce that shit however they feel. Fucking look at like what I would call X Drake in One Piece. That man is named, I think, DS Drake. Who the fuck is gonna call him DS Drake? But I'm not gonna bother saying the other name. There's an X in there, so I'm just gonna say Zergev, right? That'll be the name. Then we get to see one of the, you know, older Roswell, you know, vessel. You understand overall probably if you've seen Arc 4, you know, and hopefully the light novel version really, or web novel, because I don't know that the anime gave it that well of an explanation given how some of my friends have reacted to that info. But we get to see, you know, an older vessel where it's like a female version of Roswell, and we also get to see Carol, who, you know, she'll be pretty important. We'll get to her in a bit, right? We'll save talking about her, although I did actually kind of remember her, and it should be obvious on why almost, but I do remember seeing that name and being like, wait, I've seen that in this story before. Where? I was trying to remember who, like, right, like who, where, why, all this stuff, and it became clear when I got later into this novel. But we get to see this new squadron and everything, and now they're going out and fighting the demi-humans. It's a long, you know, constant, here's them fighting, here's them fighting, here's them fighting. Something I will say I was surprised about is the leaders of the demi-humans, because first we got Libre, and he's a lizard man. That's cool. He dies. That's kind of unfortunate. But that was interesting, because I don't know, we just haven't seen the lizard people yet, but he's the least interesting out of all of them. Actually, wait, maybe we have seen lizard people. Were there lizard people in the background of, you know, the city in the anime? There might have been. I don't know that we've seen lizard people so far yet, though. Lizard people are neat. They're cool. Big old reptiles, but with feet. I mean, I guess reptiles have feet, but you know what I mean. Legs. I mean, they also fuck. But then we also get to see Vollachia, who I was really shocked about because I saw the design, right? I opened up the first few pages and saw the design and went, that's Old Man Rom. That's Old Man Rom. That's him right there. Unless this is some fucking twin brother of him. That's him. And, yeah, that's him. I don't know how we got from point A to point B. Don't know. Maybe I'll find out with a side story if there is one. If not, maybe we'll find out later. But he's there. He's part of the demi-humans. Which I guess makes sense. I mean, like, he is a rather large man. I didn't think he was a giant, which he is. But he is rather large, so I guess it's justified. But then we also get to see Sphinx. Now, Sphinx was also shocking. Because Sphinx is essentially the first, if I remember from what I saw, the first copy of Ryuzu. And that was huge to see. And I don't know when this EX novel came out, right? I have no clue. This might have come out when the web novel was on Arc 4. But if it did not, right? If this came out earlier, like one thing I know is that this came out during the light novel release of essentially what was, you know, the white whale stuff and all that, right? Like the stuff related to Wilhelm. I know that this came out around that same time. Now, I don't know where the web novel was at that moment. It could have been on Arc 4, right? It might have been. But I don't know. But if it wasn't, right? If it wasn't on Arc 4 and it was still on the third arc, right? It was like still relatively close, possibly, to where the light novel was at. Yeah, that's some insane planning. I can't even lie. Like, obviously, you might want to have the bigger characters planned out, but the fact that Sphinx is here and Roswell and Sphinx are just actively, you know, just arguing with each other and shit, and Roswell's trying to kill Sphinx and all this shit, right? All this shit going on. It's just like, man, that is just something I did not expect this early at all, right? In terms of the EX novels, I did not expect this that early at all. So that's interesting, right? But anyways, constant fighting. Libre dies to Sphinx because she's trying to, you know, just experiment more and like she's using the like raising the dead type of spell and seeing how far they can like truly go with it and everything, right? And a whole bunch of shit. They essentially have a bunch of plans laid out, but yeah, she kills Libre. There he goes. That's unfortunate. Pivot dies as well. That's unfortunate. And then everybody tries to help out Wilhelm, or like protect him rather. Grimm loses his voice as a result because he gets stabbed in the neck and lives, and now has to speak through writing on paper. And yeah, overall we just keep going through the fights until, you know, we get the big interactions like constantly with Wilhelm and Teresia, and we get them constantly talking to each other in that flower field. And it of course more and more builds to the point that Wilhelm is almost, I'm gonna say, like becoming more human, right? Because the big thing is like, oh, he's the sword demon, he's constantly going around and just wiping out forces and stuff. But this shows him constantly getting more and more human, and I really like that. It's this constant building throughout it as he's talking to her, and, you know, despite how annoying she seems to him, right, it helps just him become more, like, empathetic, I guess, almost, right? Like, all that type of shit. It's just like, it might not even be empathetic. Is empathetic the one I'm looking for? I'm not the smartest. I don't remember. Me, editing this video, put it on screen of the one I'm trying to use. Actually, right, if it is correct, put it there. And if not, put the one I'm trying to use there. But, yeah. So he, like, this helps develop on him more and more, right? And eventually, they get to the point where Wilhelm is fighting, Valia and Sphinx and all them, or all of them are really. Grim manages to block a giant blast from Sphinx. Wilhelm essentially just beats the shit out of Valga, and Valga becomes even bigger, but luckily Wilhelm's speed is superior, and he just still kicks his fucking ass. Albeit he does take some damage, of course, but overall he wins that battle, right? And then Sphinx gets absolutely fucking crippled to the point that she loses both her arms and is now just completely useless in this fight. And eventually tries to run away, and Roswell, of course, is giving chase, but then the commander of this whole unit, I think the Viscount, was it? Something like that? He appears, and he's talking about how he took care of Sphinx and everything, right? He wiped her out, all that, and there's no longer a worry. He gives Roswell whatever Roswell needs, right? I actually don't remember fully what it was. It might have been like a jewel or something, right? It might have actually been a jewel, because I'm thinking about the certain things of Arc 4 and everything, and it's like, it might be that. But yeah, after that, gets what he needs, walks away, or she needs, I guess, walks away. But then it's revealed that Sphinx isn't actually dead, and that dude is betraying them, and I don't think we see him again in this EX volume. At least from what I know, because I don't remember seeing him do anything else. It's fine, right? There's probably like some side story stuff that I have to see for that, but that's about it for this, right? But then we continue on, because there's more of the demi-human shit going on. And eventually, of course, there's the shit where the demi-humans are attacking Wilhelm's home. He goes to attack them. He loses. Teresia comes to save the day. Yada yada yada. Eventually they get married. We know this part, really. There's not much. I mean, the only thing I could say is Wilhelm asked Roswell, like, when the celebration was happening for, Teresia and, like, the goal she accomplished with getting rid of the, like, war, right? Like, stopping it, essentially. And, I mean, that's a big thing, I guess, because Roswell was getting a thing for Wilhelm, which is weird, because she was speaking to him back when he was like 15, so that's kind of weird, but now we're here, right? And Roswell helped him with that, and it's a little thing, because it's like, oh, you helped the person who's going after somebody who's like your rival, essentially, in terms of love and all that. And yeah, that's pretty much where it ends off. It ends off at that point. They don't necessarily get married, right? It's the thing that leads to that, right? They are lovers, but they aren't married yet, except they will be very soon, because we have EX3 next, and that one is, it takes place directly after this one, so let's get right into it. Alright, and now for the third EX volume, and this one, there's not a whole lot to talk about, honestly, so really I guess I can make it quick. Well, first of all, it's, right after the previous one. Wilhelm is arrested for what he did, which makes sense. He ran into a ceremony, attacked the Sword Saint in front of a bunch of people, including the, king, and it makes sense. It makes sense that he got arrested, right? But he gets arrested, and then 5 pages later he's bailed out by Teresia, to luckily have the king's help with that and everything. And this part of the chapter is just like, okay, Wilhelm is trying to make sure that she never has to pick up the sword again, so he fights a bunch of the, Zergev squad, and beats all of them, and now she never has to pick up the sword again, except she struck a deal with the king that if she and Wilhelm get married and all that shit, that solves the issue, right? So really he didn't actually have to fight all those people. If he simply got married to her, that would solve everything. And then we get to the second chapter, which is related to the marriage, and it's Teresia's father isn't very super trusting of Wilhelm, so she asks him to go on an expedition for the next 3 days and explore a couple of towns and all that. And he goes, and there's some trouble here and there, right? And Teresia's yelling at her father and all that shit. And eventually, on the day of the wedding, Wilhelm just barely manages to arrive in his dirtied up knight uniform, and same with everybody else and all that. And you get this cute little thing, and now they're married. Woohoo! I do enjoy this, right? I should mention this because it sounds like I'm really going through this fast and I'm not enjoying it. And I did enjoy this a lot. I will say I think I might put it the lowest out of all the EX volumes. I just want to say that now. Not as a bad thing, right? That does not mean that I did not like it, right? But what it does mean is compared to the other ones, I do feel the others were stronger, right? Still really like this one. Just saying, probably the lowest, right? But anyways, we're into the third chapter. This one was really interesting. This one had shit I didn't expect. First of all, we're introduced to Stride. We don't learn much about him here. I'm very well aware of the shit about him. I was kind of shocked we didn't learn much about him here. I thought we would go into the whole thing. We didn't. That's okay. I'll get to the side story about him eventually. But we learn about Stride here. Very interesting. Like him. Alright, then we see Kurgan. That surprised me. For reasons. But we see Kurgan. And, they're here. And essentially trying to almost just instigate some shit with, Teresia and all that. Teresia's father essentially gets a disease on his arm and can pretty much just no longer use it. Or rather, he doesn't use it, I think, just to, make sure to not, show it to anybody or anything like that. He might not even be able to use it. I don't even fully remember if that was the case. But then a fight essentially breaks out between Wilhelm and Kurgan, and now during Teresia and Wilhelm's honeymoon, Wilhelm has to fight Kurgan, and this is a cool thing, right? I do like this a whole lot. Kurgan does have the interesting thing of his victory reward will be he will make Teresia his, and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense, the strongest one of Vollachia. I don't know, actually, that's another thing. I don't know what the correct name is still, because it's written as Vollachia here, but I have seen it written as something that would look like it'd be pronounced Vollachia. Let me know in the comments, please. I'm very fucking confused, right? It doesn't help that two different sources are telling me two different things. But he's the strongest of Vollachia. I'm just gonna use that, right? He's the strongest of Vollachia, and it makes sense that, oh, okay, yeah, he'd want to make Teresia his, and then, have a kid with her and all that, right? Makes sense, simply just via the mindset of, constant, strong bloodline, me strong, she strong, make strong child, right? Although he does end up saying the line in the middle of their fight to Wilhelm that, oh, you have a good name for somebody strong and everything. I shall name my child with your woman that name, and it's you had I don't want to support the action you had, but it was a big power move I was gonna, I almost want to say, right? Telling a dude you're gonna kick his ass, take his wife, and then have a kid with that wife. I would argue it's a big power move. You ruined any amount of power that move had by simply telling the man, yeah, I'm gonna name that kid I have after you. It's okay, what the fuck, dude? You just took away any power you had in that moment. That is just a really, just, everybody in the fucking audience is gonna start staring at you for that one. But anyways, if it isn't obvious, the fight concludes with Wilhelm essentially winning, and then they make it out of that situation okay, and Wilhelm's fine, and Teresia's father's hand has a disease, but he's fine, and we're good there. And the last chapter is essentially just about Grimm and Carol, because I forgot to mention it before, mostly because it's not that insane. I mean, it's important, but it's not that insanely important, I feel. Which is, these two are having a relationship and eventually they get married. And from what I've seen on their wiki page, they have children along with grandchildren. And yeah, you know, that's pretty nice. I did like the development with them as well. But yeah, overall this EX volume's more tame than the others, and it's still very enjoyable. But it's a very, you know, it's much more calm than the first one with all that shit, right? With the prince in the land, Felix's family, and the second with just the whole demi-human war, and the fourth, which we'll get into, right? This one's a lot more tame than those, but it's still definitely enjoyable. Probably the lowest on my list, but still decently enjoyable. And now we're on to the last one of this video, which is EX4. There's a lot to say about this one. I'm going to try my best and summarize it, because there's a lot here to just unpack. I'm going to make it as quick but efficient as possible, because this fucking volume feels like I'm reading like a Metal Gear story. In a good way, of course. I do enjoy this one a whole lot. I think this one might honestly be like second. Maybe, I'd possibly say second. Maybe third. I'd have to think about whether I like 2 or 4 more, right? Those places could swap, but it's either second or third, and the same goes for the second volume, I guess. But this volume is like a fucking like Metal Gear volume. There's so much shit that goes on that I have to try and explain. So, 3 Royal Knights. Reinhard, Julius, Felix. They go to Vollachia because they are requested there, specifically Reinhard. They speak to Vincent at Vollachia. Just want to say right off the bat, there's stuff that happens with him later, and I will say, I have seen his wiki page. I do know who he's related to, but at the same time, seeing the shit that happens later, and seeing seeing the way he acts and everything, yeah, no, it was a very clear indication of who he's related to. I don't even have to, you know, be at that point yet. It was very clear just from this. Anyways, they go to see Vincent. Vincent is there. They try and get this non-aggression pact with him. His area is all about, you know, just the mighty and everything, you know, thriving, the weak dying, and all this shit, right? Dude gets killed there. He's dead because he showed cowardice and all that. That guy's gone. Anyways, we move on to them being in their resident area, apartment, small hotel room, whatever fucking term we're gonna use, big guest room, and eventually they just find its way too calm right now. It's too silent. The guards aren't there anymore. Julius and Felix go to see where Reinhard's at because Reinhard was requested to go see Vincent, and then they go and see Reinhard, and all of a sudden there's a lot of dead people around him, including one of the generals. Don't remember his name. Bangladesh or something. So all of them are on the floor, and then the Vincent comes into the room, and Reinhard jumps out, grabs him, brings him through the window, and so do the other two go. Then they're just now running with him, and then 2 more generals show up. Hyena Boy and Robot Man. I will probably learn these names, you know, later, right, when that time comes, but right now I'm giving these people these names, alright? So, Robot Man and Hyena Boy appear. They fight Reinhard and Julius. I should also mention that Reinhard has a choker on that limits what he's truly capable of and everything, so he's not his peak, right? Anyways, they fight. Julius runs with Felix and Vincent, and then they're running far enough until they encounter Cecil's, I think was his name. I think that's correct. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. For some reason I thought there was a U in there, I think it's Cecile's. There might be a U in there. I am reading this off the novel, so you know what, there could have been a U in there. Don't know yet. But anyways, they encounter him. He's their big sword man in Vollachia. Reinhardt beats the shit out of the other two generals, and now he gets to fight Vincent, or not Vincent, he gets to fight Cecile's. But before that, actually, Julius fights him. Isn't doing super great, then Reinhardt fights him and takes him out in a single blow. Should be expected of Reinhardt. Then they run away again, and now the generals are trying to figure out what to do and all that shit. I should also mention the two people that were with Reinhardt, Julius, and Felix, Zergev, and Miklatov, I think is his name. He was in EX3, I believe. Are currently locked up because of what's going on. And there's another general watching them. I think his name was Gauze. And yeah, so they're being watched. I just felt like mentioning that just to say it. But now, Felix, Julius, Reinhardt, and Vincent are all running, and they run into the jungle, and then bug people are attacking them. This sounds wild. Listen, it's really enjoyable. We're not done yet. I think we're only halfway through. Bug people start attacking them, or like, I guess bug demi-humans, you know what I mean? And the Reinhardt's fighting them. Then Julius starts running with Felix and Vincent. But then they're being shot by an archer. And it's later revealed that Bangladesh was still alive. He faked his death. And now he's attacking them on the Sky Dragon, because people in Vollachia contain Sky Dragons. Albeit very few people. But he's pretty good with it. Right? So now Julius is fighting him. And then Felix joins in on the fight. Also, Vincent lost his arm. Luckily, it's healed by Felix during this time. So then Felix and Julius are fighting him. Julius knocks the dragon out of the air. And also Felix gets hit, but that doesn't matter. Felix has healing magic. But then, now it's a battle between Julius and Mr. Burgundy. Mr. Burgundy. And now they're fighting, he has a spear. Julius has his, sword and all that. Big battle here and there. He's constantly able to, attack multiple times, essentially. And then Julius lands a nice clean hit on him, kills him. Now he's dead for real. And then we go all the way back to the palace. And it's revealed who the second spy was. It was one of the Viscounts who was there and everything in Vollachia. And now that issue is overall resolved. Except, no it's not. Because now we go all the way back to Lagrunica later. Sometime later. Don't know if it was months, don't know if it was years. Honestly, I don't remember that they wrote it down. But now we're back in Lagrunica. And Cecile's is here. He's run all the way across. And now we have a problem. Oh, actually, I almost forgot to mention, because we mentioned body double earlier. And I have to mention this because it becomes a plot point multiple times. But Chiza, this dude in Cheese Man, this dude in complete white and is pale and everything, was acting as a body double for the Vincent and all this. At what point? Honestly, I forgot at what point. But he was a body double for him. Woo! Right? That's a big reveal, honestly. But I go back to Lagrunica. Cecile's has run all the way into there, despite the non-aggression pact being agreed upon and everything. And now he's here. I also should mention, because I almost forgot as well, it seems like Vincent set all this shit up. Guess what? He did. Anyways, Cecile's runs all the way to Lagrunica, and then the Chiza shows up and all this shit. I mean, Cecile's is there to fight Reinhardt, but he actually has a secret goal that he doesn't tell Julius and Felix. But Reinhardt also is not there. Should mention that. But then Chiza shows up and mentions how he's looking for another person who has come by to either bring them back home or to just dispose of them. And then it's eventually revealed through this that actually that second person wasn't Cecile's, but the Viscount who faked his death. He had a body double. This is the third time we brought up this plot point. Listen, I do like this EX novel, and trust me, I'm not saying this is a bad plot point. It's just silly as shit. I love it, honestly, for that reason. third time we bring up a body double, it's the Viscount, except he fucking dies this time to Cecile's, and then Shiza gets him, they go home. That's the end of that. Actually, before that, Cecile fights Reinhard, and they're talking to each other, and then Julius is talking to Felix, and then and that pretty much ends it. That was a long EX novel. There's so much shit that goes down, and listen, I do understand a lot of it, right? But that is hard to recap in a short amount of time, because I don't want to make this absurdly long, where I'm just talking about this, right? I like to save the absurdly long stuff for the main story reviews, right? I don't want to make the EX novel stuff long. I don't want to make the what if stuff long, right? So it's hard to pack all that info into here in the best way possible. It is a very enjoyable EX novel. There's a lot that goes on, and I do understand a good amount of it. Some things might have flown over my head, possibly. That happens a lot. You should know this by now if you're a returning viewer on the channel. But, my god, honestly, it's kind of funny how much shit like the body double gets brought up and all that. It's like, man, that happens like 3 times. Might have even happened more, possibly, actually. I'm trying to think about it. But I don't think it did. I think it was only like that many. So, overall though, it is very enjoyable. I did enjoy it a lot. I got to learn more about these characters, and learning about Vollachia is very important, right? And now I understand more. I understand how they view, strong, weak, right? The idea of living there, how their emperor is chosen, right? The 9 generals that are all there, right? And how each of them rank, right? The higher you go, the more like powerful they are and everything, right? Like the more capable they are, all that, right? There is a decent bit to learn here, right? And also like this non-aggression stuff, all this, right? It's interesting to learn all this shit here. I do like it a lot. I will say though, it is pretty silly with how just much shit they throw in there. It's kind of great, but yeah, it's wild. I think I even forgot to mention, man with the B in his name, B-Man, he actually betrayed Vincent, right? The whole reason he's dead, but he's not dead, is because he was betraying Vincent and trying to kill him to overthrow the whole thing. Except this shit never really, happened or anything, because this was all planned. You know what I mean, right? I forgot to add that in there, just felt like mentioning that now. Yeah, overall that was good. It was just like, man, there's so much shit. But I do overall get most of the stuff that was established. I do understand more about Vollachia now. I am glad I read this, right? For obvious reasons. Overall, good experience, fun little thing. Honestly, genuinely comparable to a Metal Gear game in terms of plot. That just kept going with twists. That it was like, holy fuck. But yeah, very enjoyable. And that's about it for the EX novels. Now we know all of these stories of the past, except for 5. We still gotta wait for 5. Now I think I will wait till we get the second half of Arc 7 for, EX5, right? I think I'll wait till then, because I was trying to combine this with the Arc 7 review, and I felt like it would be too long if I did that, and it probably would have been, because I think this is actually going to end up as an hour, telling by the footage, right, like how much time there is on them, all that. So I think, yeah, it was a good idea to split it up, but overall, I think I'll keep 5, just waiting till we get to part 2 of Arc 7, right? Especially because I don't think I can make a singular video about EX5, and I don't really want to shove it in there with the Arc 4 review, right? Like the reading through Arc 4 type of review, right? Don't think I want to do that. So I think I'll just wait till we get to the second half of Arc 7, and then we'll simply talk about it. And that's as simple as that, right? If we somehow get an EX6 by then, that's related to it in some way, and it's fully released in English near the time of Arc 7 finishing, maybe I'll include that in there just because. But overall, these were pretty damn enjoyable. Like I said, I'd probably put 1 at the top, then 4 or 2, then also 4 or 2, right? Depending. I'd have to really think about that, because honestly, I haven't. There's a lot that I enjoyed out of both that I'm like, I don't know where I want to put it, right? But I do think the third would probably be at the bottom. It's still very enjoyable, but I think it wasn't truly enough to be, above all the others, right? Still really enjoy that one, but yeah. But with that said, I do believe this video has come to an end, so thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, this is the big end of the year tourney. I'm going to bring this up with every video, and I'm going to especially bring it up with the RX-7 video. I'll bring it up in a bigger thing, but I'm just going to bring it up in a short way here. If you haven't already, the big end of the year tourney that we do every year, super fun and everything. There is something ReZero related that's in there. 2 things actually, but one of them is on this poll right here. Now I'm not saying vote for that character. In fact, I'm really hoping that me saying this doesn't get a bunch of people to bandwagon on that character. I hope you look at all the options and see what's available, and maybe there's something better than that character. But overall, vote for somebody there that you want. It might be the ReZero character, but vote for somebody on there that you would want, right? So yeah, there's the end of the year tourney poll there. Highly suggest you vote on that, because it does mean a big deal to me, right? Considering that this is something we do pretty much every year since, like, I think I'd probably say like 2019. I think, yeah, like 2019, possibly even earlier, because I think the first one that we did that wasn't streamed might have been 2018. Yeah, so I think that technically the first one was 2018. But yeah, vote on there. That's a big deal. We always make a big thing out of it every year. And then, yeah, maybe check out the podcast episode that went up the week before this one. Yeah, the week before this is premiering. I was just trying to remember, because, as it is right now of me recording this, it's the most recent episode. But I don't know what's going to be recorded next week, which is the week that this premieres. I don't know what we may talk about there. If we do talk about something ReZero related, there's the notification for it. Card, rather. If we didn't, then there'll be nothing there. I'm just pointing up at nothing. But there's also, the one from the previous week where we did talk about some ReZero shit. Put that up there. Hopefully I can put those up, relatively at the same time. But, yeah, that one. And, yeah, I think I've gone on long enough with this. So, I guess that's it. And I will see you all, hopefully in 2 weeks, unless, you're here for more so the anime stuff, in which case, wait a little bit, right? I promise you won't have to wait too long. Just wait a little bit, because there'll be something, trust me. But that's about it. And for those of you, who are here for the later stuff in the series, the stuff that isn't adapted yet, well, I think you know what's coming in 2 weeks. So, hope you're excited for that review. And yeah, I will see you all there. So take care. Have yourselves a great night. That's about it.